Welcome to Business Notes. I'm your host, Diane Bogino, President of Performance Strategies and Diane Bogino Development. Our guest today is David A. Miles, Ph.D. Dr. Dave is an author, trainer, and professional speaker who is passionate about developing people in all levels of an organization. He helps leaders build amazing teams. Dr. Dave holds a Doctor of Philosophy degree in organizational leadership with a concentration in human resource development. He is a professional member of the National Speakers Association and a John Maxwell certified trainer. He has conducted training and presented professionally across the United States and globally. His clients range from hotel chains, major manufacturing firms, to nonprofits and healthcare systems, including Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. Dr. Dave is an active and engaged member of his community and president of the Winchester area chapter of the Society for Human Resource Management. He resides with his wife and several four-legged furry companions in the greater Winchester, Virginia area. Dr. Dave, welcome to Business Notes, and thank you so much for being on the show today.
Well, thank you, Diane, for inviting me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this because we've been trying to get together for a while. So I wanted to ask you your first question, though. What got you interested in the study of leadership?
Well, it's kind of funny because I always blame it on a chicken sandwich.
Okay.
It was all the fault of a chicken sandwich, that's for sure. So the reason I say that is when I first started, I'm a kid, I'm sitting there cutting grass and doing odd jobs, to try to make money. And then I had a friend of mine that worked at Chick-fil-A down at the mall. And at 15 and a half, I could go down to the city, get a work permit, and I could start working there. It's funny because I didn't know, that's the first job I ever had. The guy who owned it, who was the franchise owner, was a great guy. He loved his employees. He really poured into them. Come on. It's fast food. It's not like you're getting great pay. It's not like the work is fantastic. In the big scheme of things, he always took care of his people. It was a great environment to work. It was like a family atmosphere. And, people wanted to come to work, even though they probably could make more money elsewhere because they knew there were opportunities to advance or things that you could do. But it was just a good, solid environment. If you had to paint a picture of what company culture could be, and this is before the cows, this is before the my pleasure, this is before a lot of the stuff that everybody knows Chick-fil-A for now, right? They hadn't even gotten into the grilled stuff yet. That was just like, hey, guess what we're getting ready to do. But he made it so interesting and so cool to work there, and just was, like I said, it was such a great environment. It ruins you when that's your first work experience, because you know what? You're stupid when you're that age. And you think, wow, everything I've worked before, I have experience. I've been here for 3 years. And when you're 18, 19, 20, guess what? 3 years is, proportionally speaking, a big portion of your life, right? So I worked here for this huge proportion of my life. This is how it goes. And you go into another environment, you're like, ooh, wait a minute, this guy's a jerk, or this gal's a jerk. What's going on? This is not cool. And when you look at all that, you're like, wait a minute. It could be like this. It's supposed to be like, why is it? And they're like, boy, that's not how life is. And I'm like, yes, that is how life is. I just left that. No, that doesn't exist anywhere. Yes, it does. I just left it. And so that cognitive dissonance it's like, okay, so what is the difference? And that was really a big motivation, that big cognitive dissonance on why are all these other places not there? That formative experience in work, when you could see good leadership, not just the guy who owned it, but the people that he trained, the leaders that he had around him, the people they trained, they all had that same type of giving, caring, serving, but we're here to get a job done attitude. And it was just a great place to work. And I said that the difference between the two was always a motivation on, well, what drove them, what was in them, why were they different?
Yeah.
And that's what really drove me to want to study leadership.
Right. And he probably hired people just like him. So that's a kudo to you, because I think you're just like that.
I don't know. I wouldn't go that far. I was gonna say it's probably one of those. Hey, we need somebody to swing this chicken and pour drinks.
And Dave, what are some of the main themes or the focus or areas of focus in your business?
Well, we have three main areas of focus with our business, and everything we do, because I look at it in the lens of organizational culture. So everything we do has to do with three aspects. It's kind of leadership, communication, and engagement. And if you can look at them like a Venn diagram coming together, I think the intersection of all of those, if you get them right, is a healthy organizational culture. The problem is some people have two of the three, and that can present a problem. And unfortunately, some may only have one of the three, and or none of the three, and God forbid. I mean, who knows? But in giving them the benefit of the doubt, let's just say they had two of the three. So you got leadership, communication, engagement. My thing is, I obviously my degree is in leadership. My um, company name has leadership in the name. So don't get me wrong, I'm all about leadership, but we always start with communication. Because if you can't communicate properly, if your people, especially in your executive leadership, the departments are all siloed and they're not working together and they're not able to meet each other in the middle. And the way we look at it, I mean, just to be able to appreciate the differences of others, not just tolerate them. And if you know that, hey, I need to really adapt the way I communicate to my other executive team members, you can do all the leadership classes in the world. You can do all the training, all the coaching, all the everything else in the world. But if your team is not communicating, it's just not a good thing. So that's where we like to start. So if you got leadership, communication, engagement. If you got leadership and communication and you don't have engagement, it's like working on a chain gang. That's what you got. You got a chain gang. Good amount of leadership, good amount of communication. They know what to do. No engagement at all. Like, this place stinks. You're just punching the clock. It's like a chain gang. So if you got leadership and engagement, but no communication at all, it's like a silo farm. I got great leadership. We're all knowing what we're doing. We're engaged, but nobody's communicating. It's just a full-on, Nebraska farm of nothing but silos everywhere. And that's not healthy for your organization. And then if you have great communication and great engagement and no leadership, you got yourself one big water cooler. Man, people love working there, but it ain't a daggone thing getting done. You're missing deadlines. It's a great place to work, but we're not really hitting our goals and making our money. So you got to have all three, I think, to really have an organizational culture. So that's why we really focus on, that's the model we use. And that's what we try to wrap everything we do around, is that leadership, communication, and engagement.
Right. Excellent illustration. I love your explanation there. So what are some of the important things that leaders and others should know about maximizing performance?
I think learning about the members of your team is a big thing. I mean, you have to know the numbers, you have to know the processes, because I mean, there's a statement around, and I think David Newman has said it, a lot of people have said it. It's not exclusive, I don't think, to one person, but most companies have problems in three areas. If they have problems, either they have people problems, they have process problems, or they have profit problems. And everybody focuses on the profit problems. If they get really, really good, they're like, oh, we need to make sure, and let's get the Lean Six Sigma in here. And don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of lean process improvement. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. But the meat of it is your people. And no matter what business you're in the people business. And if you can take care of your people problems, and I think the thing that leaders should know to maximize performance is you got to know your people, especially your direct reports. What drives them, what motivates them, what are their top skills that they might not even realize. What are the ways that you need to be able to best communicate with them? Just that type of thing. That's a solid foundation. If they have that, it's just going to make the other things go so much better. So to me, that's how they maximize performance.
Yeah. And how do you help teams perform at their best? Build those amazing teams, as you say.
Well, we try to work with them with we use some science-based assessment tools to understand what is somebody's behavioral style? What are the behavioral traits? All these, maybe 12 behavioral traits that people have. What are their primary communication style? How best can you get across it? If you look at someone's behaviors and someone's communication style, it's all the how of what they do. So if you understand the how people do what they do, you can kind of adapt to that. But then just understanding also with these tools, finding out what drives them, what motivates them. One great example, if you have somebody that's very, you can interview them for a job. They're great. They're very harmonious. Everything has to be this, kumbaya experience, and they have to have the desk and the waterfall and the feng shui thing going on, and the little squirrels are in the forest out there the window, and it's just beautiful. Put them in that environment, they are a rock star. You interview them, you're like, oh my God, this is the greatest person we've got to have this person. You hire them and you put them in a cubicle. And you wonder why 6 months later that they're quitting, because it's going against what internally just drives it. It's kind of the iceberg, it's just the how what you do is kind of, people can see behavior change. You can people watch and really pick up a lot, which we teach people to do some of that, but understanding on a personal level what really drives and motivates them, I think that is, like I said, the part of the iceberg you don't see. But if you can tap into that, that's just a gem to be able to motivate and drive people to have outstanding performance. And then you just other things. I mean, the higher end organization you go, the more emotional intelligence is important. So, I mean, looking at that and at any level, even just looking at the soft skill competencies, the people skills that they have, I mean, that's huge to take a look at, because sometimes people don't even realize how good they are at something until they actually have somebody look at objectively from the outside. So those are some of the tools that we use to put together. And when people understand that, then we do one of my favorite workshops to do either with boards or senior leadership teams to start. We call it critical alignment for boards or critical alignment for leadership teams. And it puts all of these pieces together. So that way, we talked about earlier about people understanding to be able to actually appreciate the differences of others, not just tolerate them, having to be able to meet them in the middle. Yeah, that's just how Joe is. Joe, that's just how Bill or Sue or, Kate is. That's just how they are. Well, no, it's when you understand how they do and why they're kind of hardwired that way, they understand how you are. You're the one that wants, hey, 3 bullet points, get in, get out, let's go. I need to ask, how the wife and kids, how's the soccer game, how's whatever, a little bit of conversation, and you just come in and vomit 3 bullet points on my desk and roll away, then you get the HR complaints. He's being mean to me, he's bullying me. And you're like, I didn't bully anybody. I used that example with the CEO one time, and they were like, how did you know? And I'm like, oh no, I've stepped in it. Like, how did I know what? Like, we literally have an HR complaint at one of our offsite offices for that exact same thing. And I'm like, it's called dealing with people. That's the danger of having that type of environment and not knowing these things and how much it can help. And anytime a CEO can avoid HR complaints is always a plus.
That's for sure.
I'm the president of our local SHRM chapter, and I'm saying, hey, do your best to stay out of HR's office. They don't have time to deal with it, and there's not enough acetaminophen to help with their headaches. So I'm dealing with your silly pettiness. Get back to work. So I mean, that's just understanding that in kind of that workshop environment, and then and then having that just similar to your tandem team X-ray, doing that just team debrief, and that, like I said, they just get naked. Like you see your whole team out there in front of God and everybody, and like, wow, that's why we hate each other. Wow, that's why we butt heads all the time. Oh my God, I had no idea. Wait a minute. No wonder we're not getting anything done. Our sense of urgency on our behavioral traits is the lowest of the 12 traits. Wow, no wonder nothing's getting taken care of. Nobody has a sense of urgency. This is not good. So, but I mean, you can identify those things. And then once you have those light bulb aha moments, and I mean, it's like 4th of July fireworks as far as aha moments when people are looking at those graphs on, and then amongst themselves, they're like, oh, I see this now. It's amazing because then all of a sudden they have that awareness and they can do something about it.
All right. Self-awareness is so important.
Yes.
Now, you touched on communication a minute ago, Dr. Day, but how important is communication and emotional intelligence in the workplace?
I think communication and being able to relate with people and build relationships and communicate properly is probably one of the most important skills you can have. just because if you can't communicate properly, I mean, you might have legitimately the best intentions and you come across unintentionally, meaning well, as a complete jerk or a bully. People are going to not understand the message. They're taking the tone of voice, they're taking the gruffness, they're taking they're taking just the way you are. Or if you're just not great at communication, they're taking that and they're reading in the body language, they're reading in all this other stuff. And the gist of your communication, no matter how well intended it is lost. Or they start why is they saying that? They start getting suspicious. What do they really mean? What's going on? And then it just, that stuff spreads like wildfire. So that's why communication is so important. And emotional intelligence is just crucial. Like I said, the higher you go in an organization, the more emotional intelligence is important. But we just did a podcast not too long ago. We were talking about different things on emotional intelligence. And one of the things that, when doing the research for that, I've always looked at it in the aspect of leadership. But I found in the research from, I think it was a Harvard Business Review article, that how important it was for top performers. I mean, they said almost all of the top performers in an organization had high levels of emotional intelligence. Where people are like, well, wow, I want to be a top performer. And then your CEOs are like, wow, I really could use a couple more top performers. Man, that would be awesome. It's, the B level, like they're doing good. And then the C level are kind of like, yeah, I punched the clock and I don't take too many pens home. And then, but I mean, that's the thing. Like I said, not just for leaders to motivate and drive their teams, but just top performers individually. It's crucial for emotional intelligence. And like I said, the last thing that you want is a workforce that is there. And I'm in Virginia, so it's a right to work state. And I know there's other ones that have union contracts, but no matter whether you're in a right to work state or a union state, I still say there's something called the unholy contract. And that's what I always like to call it when it was in the employment industry. And it's unwritten and it's evil. It's just that. It's kind of one of those ones, and I know you've seen it before, Diane. It's one of those ones we kind of walk by the hallway and look at each other and they're like, okay, here's the agreement. I'll work just hard enough to not get fired. You'll pay me just enough not to quit. And we'll kind of nod heads, keep walking. And that's the unholy contract. I'll be here 9-ish. I'll leave 4:50-ish. And like I said, you pay me just enough not to quit, and I'll work just hard enough not to get fired. And
yeah, I've seen that scenario more than once.
Yes, I call it the unholy contract in employment, and that's one of the things you want to try to avoid. And I think communication, leadership, engagement, just having that healthy organizational culture can help you get rid of some of those contractual obligations.
So you mentioned your podcast. So tell our viewers a little bit about your Business Smarts radio program.
Okay, well, a colleague of mine, Tom Borg, he's in Michigan. We've been doing a podcast. Actually, I think this week made 1 year that we've been doing this.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so it's called Business Smarts Radio with Tom and Dr. Dave. And the podcast we talk about it's the clean approach to building your successful business. And we talk about when we mean clean, we're not talking about spick and span and dust mops. The podcast is all about an acronym, clean. Kind of like we talked about the business. It's all about communication, leadership, engagement, and no drama. And I love the communication, leadership, engagement. I kind of brought that to the table. And Tom has a lot with hey, what can you do to train? And there is a way to teach and train and develop staff and teams and organizations to really kind of weed out the drama, because, we have overlap in the other. But if you think about that end of it, and it doesn't really get talked about a lot, but if you can really shine a light and focus just a little bit about what can we do to lower the temperature a little bit sometimes? What can we do to, hey, let's keep our eye on task and maybe get a little bit of the office politics and the drama and the everything else out of this. It's nice going somewhere where you don't have a lot of drama. Some people feed on it, and that's nice. And you know what? That's where you give a gift, your heartfelt gift to your competition. You give them the blessing of that high drama person to be able to work at their organization and not yours. but
That's right.
you want turnover is expensive. You want to try to keep them, but it can be poison in an organization. So you can get the other ones right, and that's part of it. Is you want to keep it. So that's all. That's our podcast is about. We do. Some we do interviews. Some we do. We just finished up a 4-part series on the 4 strategies to navigate the next 4 quarters. And one of the things that we talk about is we've both done a lot of strategic planning. I mean, we have a great forum. It's kind of like, your strategic plan on one sheet of paper. And a lot of the high Ds, a lot of the really driven folks that are the 3 bullet point type of people, they love that. Hey, I don't have to go through a 57-page strategic plan. It's all on one sheet of paper. Yes, sir. It is on one sheet of paper. Then some of the formality types are like, well, can you take that and make that into a 57-page document? Like, we can. You got a check that can clear. I've got a word processor that I can expand this out on, but everything you need is on that one sheet of paper. But we're like, how can you think 3 years ahead now? Probably sometimes you can't even think 3 days ahead or 3 weeks ahead. So we're like, break things into quarters, and here's some things that you can do to kind of put that into perspective, and that some strategies that may help with that. So yeah, it's been 1 year this week, and
is that on your website? Can people find it on your website?
People can go to they can either Google Business Smarts Radio. It's on Apple, iTunes, Spotify. It's we have it on the video part on YouTube, and then we also put it out on Facebook and LinkedIn. So hopefully soon to be coming on the site. But if you Google Business Smarts Radio, you'll be able to find it in a lot of different areas.
Okay, good. Dr. Dave, on your website, you talk about partnering with clients. Can you expand on that just a little bit?
One of the things that I look at it as, I want to be as invested in what we're doing as you are. I don't want to just come in, you come in, you do a 1-day workshop, and everyone's like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then 2 or 3 months later, 4 months later, it's like you weren't even there. What can you do to partner with an organization? That's the way I look at it. Is I want you to be as successful as you want you to be. And what can we do to make that happen? And so, it's just a matter of, where can we implement little things? Some of it may be, hey, let's in person or on Zoom, let's bring in and train some of the top tier managers, maybe the board, and then the executive director or the CEO, and then down to maybe the CEO and the senior leadership team. And then maybe each of the VPs or directors, maybe their staff, but then give them the tools that they can spread that through those communication tools through the rest of the organization. So that way, we'll look at ways that they can implement things on their own, but still you have a common shared language. And once you get that into a habit, you can start making some organizational culture change, because that's just the way we do things. That's kind of the way cultures change. It's new habits, it's new procedures, it's new. You just kind of get in the groove of, hey, that's how we do it. That's why I like to partner with organizations, because I want to make sure that I want them to be successful. And I don't want to look at it as a vendor that somebody comes in, does something and leaves. I want to be there to help and support them and make sure that they are doing well and performing at their best.
Excellent. Yes. So, Dave, final question. You mentioned breaking things into quarters, but what are 2 or 3 actions that business leaders can take now to prepare for success in the coming future?
I think one of the things is being real adaptive to change. I mean, we've all had to be, but I think managers and leaders have really been forced to break out of their comfort zones and try new things. And I think that just being able to be light on your feet. I almost hate using the word now because this stuff has been used so much, but to be able to light on your feet, to be able to pivot a little bit, to be able to kind of be more flexible. I think that adapted to change and willing to be somewhat flexible and try different things and see how they work is probably one of the most important things you could do. Think about how many people for years and how many HR magazines and leadership magazines and everybody said, hey, people are, these great organizations and people want to be able to work from home. That's a big thing, work-life balance, and they're able to work from home. And then all of a sudden last March, we were forced to, guess what you're doing? Sparky, you're working from home. Yay. Well, let's figure this out. And all the managers are like, I don't want to do this because I don't think they're going to do it unless I see them. Now all of a sudden they're like, wow, that was dumb. Work's getting done. And I saw an article about a month or two ago saying that it's probably more applicable to big business, but they're like for every employee that's working at home, it's saving these companies potentially $11,000 a year.
Really?
Yes. And so you think about the commercial real estate business. Well, oh, why do I need to have people in? Then it goes to a leadership. Okay, I'm a CEO, I'm a VP, I'm a director. I've got a manager, I'm a VP, and I have a director that he or she is just that much of a micromanager that they have to have their people in place. Well, he's got 27 people. Well, guess what? 27 people, 11,000 a person. You might want to get over that micromanage tendency and you know, chill out a little bit, take a Ativan or something. I mean, just, take a couple breaths, get your woos on, something. You might want to let go, brother, and sister. You might want to develop some additional leadership skills to say, hey, it's okay to look them at home because this is real money when you talk about that. And if it's good for the employees, and even if it's not the full 11, that you're a couple days a week here, and people commute from such a far away. Look at even like the Northern Virginia. I mean, a lot of cities are like this, but I'll use Northern Virginia as an example. You could work somewhere, Tyson's Corner or Fairfax County or Alexandria, someplace where, hey, I'm making great money, but man, the cost of living is just horrendous. Well, now if you can work from home, I can work at that same great place and I can move out a little bit further where the cost of living is a lot less. And how much more does that benefit me as a person? And how much more does it benefit the company if you're saving that? And if your leadership, saving that maybe $11,000 a year, and if leadership is the crux point of not being able to get that done, you might want to look at developing those leaders. But that comes down to being adapted to changes. That comes down to being, flexible, being able to pivot, be able to try new things, see how they work. And sometimes it's nerve wracking. Okay, I can't see them. Are they actually getting things done? But you'd be surprised. Most people rise to the challenge and they do well, giving the right tools and opportunity and accountability.
Right. People don't get up in the morning and say, I really want to do a bad job today. People
Yes.
want to do a good job.
Yes. I can't wait to do a bad job. Oh my goodness. Yes. Well, most of it, if it is, it's not it's maybe one of those, the balls, they're thinking the balls isn't looking, I can get away with. That's what some of the leaders are thinking. I can do just the bare minimum and check in. And you know what? There is that in every organization. You just can't take the one bad apple and broad brush everybody with, oh, I had this one poor experience with an employee, so we're going to punish everybody else. That blanket policy type of management is deadly in an organization because it's just draining on the employees and it kills your engagement. And at some point, that's when you start getting turnover, and that costs real money.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dr. Dave, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Well, best way to get in touch with me, call the office or the email. I can go to my website at drdavemiles.com, and they can look me up on LinkedIn or Facebook at Dr. Dave Leadership. But they can also email me, Dave at drdavemiles.com. You can just call the office. It's 540-773-8487. But just reach out. I'd be more than happy to be able to talk to you about what we can do with your team. We have different samples of some of our assessments that we'd be happy to give you to see. Hey, try this for yourself, but then see how that would be applicable to your whole team and your organization. And if it's a great fit, fantastic. But if it's not, hey, that's cool too. At least and you've got some great self-awareness tools for yourself that you can take back, and it's a win either way.
Exactly. Dr. Dave, thank you so much for being on the show today. And I think that you've given organizations some great information to work with going forward. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate you having me on, and I really do. I like your interviews. I've watched them, and they're fantastic. So keep up the great work, and it was a pleasure being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you for watching Business Notes. We've been speaking with Dr. David A. Miles, author, trainer, and professional speaker. I'm your host, Diane Bogino, bringing you business ideas you can bank on.